Have you ever been to see a game of footy of AFL?
Yes, I have, but it's probably been well over a decade since then. When I was in high school, I guess 15 or 16 years old, I would loosely follow the AFL, and I'd been to a few Collingwood games, and I'm sure I enjoyed them at the time, but I have no more interest in any sport really, at least not observing.
I used to be a very keen sports fan until I'd say about 3 years ago. As in, I mean, I love sport, I love playing sport, I love being physically active, but I was a really passionate supporter of the Melbourne Storm. It doesn't really matter if you're not from Melbourne or if you don't follow these leagues. It's one of the local teams. Like in America, you have the NFL. Like in England, you have the Premier League and so forth. But I actually spent real money. Like I bought the season tickets. I even went interstate. I went to Sydney to see the grand final. And not only that, whether my team was doing well was really important to me. And nowadays, once in a blue moon, I'll check in and have a look at where my team, the collection of purple jerseys that I want to win is doing on the table. But really, it's completely alien to me. It's completely removed from my reality. Mm-hmm. And it strikes me as so strange that for years and years it was a big deal. It was a big deal that translated into expenditure of a lot of money. And whether I was happy, whether I was sad, was really tied to something that's as arbitrary as the winds or the rain. And I sort of woke up. You know, when I look at it back, it's like I was dreaming, and now I've woken up.
Yeah.
Have you had a similar experience? Maybe not with sports, but something else.
Okay. That's a tough one. I will give this example. It may not be the same thing, but in the last sort of 6 months, I decided I would give up playing video games. So for a long time, I held I believed I should do more for self-knowledge, more to develop myself, including physical exercise and things like journaling. Yet I would spend enough time just on video games that if it were devoted to the other things, I could be far advanced in my life, in my personal development. Since giving up video games, which may or may not be a permanent thing, it's giving it up for the time being. Since giving it up, I've just felt better because I have spent that time doing more productive things and just felt better. Now I look back and imagine replacing the things I'm doing to better myself with video games. That thought is just depressing. There's just no way.
It's quite interesting how powerful video games really are. I remember reading a book about video game design, and the premise of good video game design of I think the term is gamification, if I remember correctly. Or that's a related topic. At any rate, to make a good video game, you have to strike a balance between the rewards and difficulty. If it's too hard, very few people are going to play it. If it's too easy and you get the rewards too easily, then people won't take it seriously and they won't derive satisfaction from it. Now, the ultimate video game, as far as this goes, is Mario Brothers, the classic Mario Brothers game. And the fact that it's still played to this day on pretty much every platform is a testament to the fact that they got that balance right. You start off, it's pretty easy, you bounce, you work out the moves, and as you go along, it gets progressively harder. And a lot of people find that genuinely addictive. But what was really interesting in this particular book that I read was that it said, there is a game out there that has that perfect balance. I'm just paraphrasing here, by the way. And I'll get the details and maybe put that in the comment section, in the information section of the video. So it said there's this game out there that strikes the perfect balance. It has infinite variety. It has infinite challenges. It's different every single day. You can make it as easy, you can make it as hard as you like. It just depends on how you want to play it. And that game is called life. The real world. And yet, even though life is so interesting, it's so absorbing, developing yourself, building up your body, getting fitter, reading, learning, talking to new people, meeting people online, all these things are so much more interesting than pretty much any video game that I can think of. Yet, so many people, especially young men, get drawn into video games and will pour hours upon hours, cumulative days and weeks and months of their lives into video games.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? What is it about video games that taps into this energy that takes us away from other things?
The first thing that comes to mind, I remember, now this may have been 10 years ago, I remember speaking with a friend who also was playing a lot of video games to another friend who never played any video games. And we asked the non-player, how is it you don't play any games? Why don't you play video games? They're so much fun. His response was, I don't know how you guys can be bothered doing it. And my immediate response, just the answer came to me straight away, and I stand by it to this day. It is the easiest thing to be bothered doing. Now, to elaborate, I find it so absorbing that hours can pass effortlessly with video games. That appealed to me more when I was younger and less as I got older. And I think when I was young, when I was a teenager, the alternative was something else in the house, which involved interacting with my family members, who I guess I wasn't. I guess I just wasn't terribly keen on doing that hours on end. Besides, they probably didn't have the time or the interest to spend that much time with me anyway. But certainly the video games were the friend that were always there, and they were absorbing. And I remember also very clearly being able to, if I was hungry but had to wait for dinner, playing a video game would even numb that discomfort. It was so absorbing. I could sit down on an empty stomach and play for an hour, and an hour's gone by, and I haven't even realized that I still haven't eaten. It's just so absorbing. And there was nothing else that was that absorbing. To go one step further, the first thing I can think of that came up that was similarly absorbing, that took me away from video games for many hours, was playing music. I'm a drummer. I started playing drums when I was 11. I think I was about 15 or 16 when I started to really practice. And when that took off, for a couple of years, it was a daily thing. Often I would play a couple of hours a day, every day of the week. And I improved very quickly, and I remember that being very, very absorbing. Well, what about yourself, Alex? What was your draw towards video games?
Well,
did you ever play video games?
Oh yes, I most certainly did. I remember one especially joyous memory was I was about, I would say 13, maybe 14, and the video games I always liked were strategy. I liked some real-time strategy. I liked the turn-based strategy, like Heroes of Might and Magic, for those who know about it. And if you do want to play it, not that I'm saying you necessarily should spend the time, but if you do want to play it, you can download a lot of the old classic games from GOG.com, goodoldgames.com. So that's not a plug for GOG.com, I'm just mentioning it. So I liked certain games. I never enjoyed the action games, never enjoyed the first-person shooters or just the senseless bashing or destruction. I always liked games that required a certain degree of strategic thinking. Or adventure games. I loved those fantasy adventure games, but that just was an extension of my love of fantasy novels, which is not uncommon. But I remember that I played a demo version of Warcraft, not World of Warcraft, not even one of the later ones. I'm talking about the real original Warcraft, which actually, for its time, for its genre, had a pretty good storyline. And I played this demo, and then one day a friend of mine mentioned to me that he had the full version, and I was so excited at the opportunity, at the prospect of playing the full game, that I jumped up. I was in the bus, I jumped up and I gave him a hug, and rode with him home and got the, I think it was diskettes perhaps, and then just ran back home, and I installed that game, and I think I played 13 hours straight. I'm not sure if I even got out of my chair. I mean, I must have, surely, even for, I don't know, but I recall that I started, because it was holidays, I started in the morning, and it was well late at night by the time I finished, and I was delighted. So, I did have a certain love affair with video games, but I would say that was greatly curbed by the technical limitations of my machine. I never had a particularly good computer until I myself got into computers. It was always a fairly weak and slow machine, so that limited considerably the type of games that I could play. But I would say by about my mid-teens, I was already aware of other things that interested me more. And so playing video games was something that came and went. And I agree with you completely, Tungo, that it's one of the easiest things to get absorbed by, to get into. And you can pass away a great many hours. And I'm not talking just about the people who are complete recluses, who will spend days on end without seeing another human being or showering. It's something that a lot of people feel. But we certainly, at least as far as I know, it's something that's more prevalent amongst boys and young men than it is amongst girls and young women. And what do you think it is about video games that seems to appeal more to boys than to girls?
I don't even have a theory.
Don't even have a theory. So I'm
trying to fluff one.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And you see, this is part of the open and honest communication that we value here in the Melbourne FDR group, and that we want to live by especially when we're meeting up with other FDR members, which is that sometimes the only answer is, I don't know. I myself, I don't know. I can take a guess. I might think that it might have something to do with a certain masculine desire for power, or maybe there's a female tendency towards more socializing than a male tendency. Certainly, if we look at other aspects of being a nerd or being a geek, always have more men who take an interest in the sorts of things that require you to spend a lot of time on your own practicing and developing a skill. And video games are really about practicing and developing these skills. You need to develop these skill sets in order to get better and better at the video game. And so you have to do that in isolation. And it involves a lot of failure as well. And if you think of other things, it's like if you think of people who get into robotics, people who construct things, people who make things, people who have collections, guys who get into particular physical activities that require you to build up your strength or build up your stamina or build up your skills. Guys on BMX, for example. There are girls who do stuff on BMX, but go on YouTube, type in BMX, there'll be maybe 1 in 100 who is a girl.
Sure.
So maybe there's something to that. As this is going to go on YouTube, what do you guys think? Feel free to comment down below. We want to hear what you guys think about it. We don't really have much of a theory, but maybe someone's got some insight.